The judge's voice was still echoing in my head when my phone lit up with silence. No missed calls, no messages, not even a "Are you okay?" That's when it finally landed, not as pain, but as clarity. I was alone by design. 8 years. That's how long my family practiced forgetting me. I stood outside the courthouse, divorce papers warm in my hand, watching other people lean into arms that rushed toward them. Mothers, brothers, someone to absorb the shock. I dialed my sister. It rang until it didn't. I didn't leave a voicemail. I already knew how that story ended. They hadn't always been like this. Or maybe they had, and I was just late to notice. I remember the beginning too well. Sunday dinners, loud arguments that ended in laughter. My father's hand on my shoulder when he said my name, like it meant something solid. When I moved away for work, they cried like I was crossing an ocean, not a border. They promised calls, visits. "We're family," my mother said. "Distance doesn't break that." Distance didn't. Neglect did. I was the one who called, always. Birthdays, holidays, random Tuesdays. I sent gifts, thoughtful ones, books my father mentioned once, toys for nieces who barely knew my face. I mailed care, wrapped in tract. They accepted everything. They returned nothing. At first, I defended them in my own head. Busy lives, misplaced phones. I told myself love didn't always sound loud. But patterns don't lie. Missed calls became unanswered months. Messages stayed read, never replied. When I visited unannounced, the door didn't open. Lights were on, cars were there. Silence was deliberate. The proof came quietly. It always does. A cousin tagged them in a photo online. A family gathering, balloons, cake, everyone smiling around a table I didn't know existed. The date matched my birthday. I stared at the screen, calm in a way that scared me. That's when the pain stopped begging. It started watching. I didn't confront them. I didn't cry into a phone they wouldn't pick up. I took notes instead. Who benefited from my absence? Who inherited my silence? I noticed how my help had been consistent. Money when someone was short, favors when someone was stuck, while my presence had become optional. They hadn't forgotten me. They had replaced me. So I stopped insisting. I told myself this wasn't revenge. It was hygiene. You cut out infection to save the body. I began to plan with the same patience I used when loving them, only colder, cleaner. First, I changed my name, legally, efficiently, no drama. A clerk stamped my new identity like it was nothing more than paperwork. It felt heavier than blood. Then I sold my house, the one with the guest room I kept ready for visitors who never came. I sold it quietly, below market, because speed mattered more than profit. I closed accounts they knew about, redirected mail, erased routines. I canceled my phone number last. That was the hardest part. I stared at the screen before confirming, half expecting it to ring at the last second. It didn't. When the signal died, something else came alive. Relief, sharp and clean. I disappeared without announcement. No goodbye letters, no dramatic exits. I owed them nothing performative. 6 months passed, then more. I built a life in smaller rooms, under a name that had no history with them. I worked, slept well, learned how quiet dignity feels. That's when they noticed. It started with emails, confused, then panicked. "Where are you? We're worried." My cousin tried to track me through work. Dead end. Old friends were contacted. I had already said my goodbyes there too, carefully, without explanations that could be forwarded. I watched from a distance. Silence is louder when it answers back. The confrontation happened in a cafe I chose for its glass walls and neutral colors. My sister sat across from me, eyes wide, hands trembling around a cup she didn't drink. She said my old name like it might still work. I let her talk. I always had. When she finally asked why, I told her the truth. Not all of it, just enough. I listed dates, calls, gifts, doors not opened, birthdays celebrated without me. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't accuse, I recited facts like a ledger. She cried, apologized, blamed misunderstandings, time, life. I leaned forward and ended it. "You didn't forget me," I said. "You practiced." That was the moment she understood. Not the loss of me, but the loss of access. I wasn't angry, I was unavailable. That terrified her more than rage ever could. I stood up before she could ask for forgiveness I wouldn't grant. I left money on the table for the coffee I didn't drink. Old habits die hard. Now, when I think about them, it's not with bitterness, it's with precision. I gave them 8 years of effort. I took back the rest of my life. This is my confession, not of cruelty, of choice. They taught me absence. I mastered it.